On a night when rain lashed the walls of St. Grace Hospital, fate itself seemed to tremble. But inside those walls, a storm far more dangerous than thunder was brewing. Nurse Mika, her face pale and eyes wide with fear, clutched a newborn to her chest. Each step echoed with the weight of an impossible choice. She hesitated between two rooms, one a young mother and her sleeping baby girl, the other Mr. Tanaka, powerful, impatient and demanding. Mr. Tanaka's words cut through the air like ice. "I said I wanted a boy." Mika's hands trembled, her heart pounding as she looked from the innocent child to the man whose gaze demanded obedience. In the other room, hope was all the young family possessed, a fragile, shining hope for their daughter's future. Mika stared out at the raging storm, her soul in turmoil, the rain outside echoing the chaos within. In that moment she made a choice, one that would send ripples through countless lives. Thunder crashed, lightning split the sky, and in a single silent heartbeat, destiny was rewritten. Two newborns, sleeping in separate rooms, their lives forever changed by a secret act. The hospital's silent corridors would guard this secret, as relentless as the storm outside. And so began a tale of fate, family, and the consequences of a single fateful night. Years passed. In a modest home, sunlight warmed Aya, a bright-eyed 7-year-old, as she struggled with her school shoes. Her foster mother smiled. "Someday, Aya, you'll wear a white coat." Aya grinned. "I'm going to be a real doctor." Laughter filled the room, hope shining in their eyes. Meanwhile, in the Tanaka mansion, Kazuo grew up surrounded by luxury but starved for affection. Two children worlds apart, each missing something vital. The threads of fate woven that stormy night set their lives on a collision course. Soon, truth would test the strength of their hearts. Aya's home was filled with simple joys, her foster mother's baking, shared stories, and whispered dreams. At school, Aya's second-hand books and uniform set her apart, but her intelligence and kindness drew others in. She excelled, working hard every summer, saving every yen for her dream of becoming a doctor. She scrubbed floors, waited tables, and tutored, her resolve unbreakable. Through every hardship, her foster mother's love was Aya's anchor. Their bond was a safe haven, a foundation for Aya's ambitions. In that small home, hope and determination flourished. Aya's spirit never wavered. The Tanaka mansion was grand, but Kazuo's world was cold. His days were filled with tutors and expectations, his parents distant and demanding. Lavish gifts replaced affection, and praise felt empty. Kazuo excelled, but only to please, never for himself. He felt like an outsider, yearning for connection and purpose. Friends were drawn to his wealth, not his heart. He found solace in books, dreaming of a life with meaning. Kazuo's gilded cage was beautiful, but lonely. Aya and Kazuo, bound by fate, moved through separate worlds, each longing for more. Aya volunteered at clinics, her compassion growing with every patient. She devoured medical textbooks, her dream unwavering. Kazuo rebelled quietly, volunteering at soup kitchens, seeking genuine connection. Their paths nearly crossed, at bookstores, on buses, in crowded streets. Each time fate kept them apart, their lives intertwined yet distant. Their hearts beat with longing, a silent symphony of what could be. Destiny waited, patient and persistent. Aya's determination burned bright. School became her battleground, her intellect her weapon. She studied late into the night, her foster mother's pride a constant comfort. Every exam was a step closer to medical school. Financial struggles never dimmed her resolve. She juggled jobs and studies, driven by a calling to heal. Aya's belief in her purpose was unshakable. She was meant to make a difference. In the Tanaka mansion, Kazuo's achievements brought little joy. His parents' praise was hollow, their expectations suffocating. He mastered subjects out of duty, not passion. Kazuo found fulfillment volunteering at clinics and nursing homes. The gratitude he received there was real, unlike the emptiness at home. He dreamed of a life with purpose, beyond wealth and status. Kazuo longed to matter. Fate kept Aya and Kazuo circling each other, never quite meeting. They frequented the same library, volunteered at the same hospital, their paths crossing in fleeting moments. Once Aya treated a young man at the clinic, a brief spark of recognition, quickly lost. Another time they sat across from each other on a crowded bus, exhaustion in their eyes, but the moment passed. Each near miss deepened the mystery of their connection. Destiny seemed to toy with them, always just out of reach. Their lives brushed but never collided. The secret of their past waited to be revealed. Years of hard work paid off. Dr. Aya Fujimoto. Her name on her ID felt both surreal and earned. She walked the halls of St. Grace Hospital, the place of her birth and fate's turning point. A shiver of memory lingered, but she pressed on. Her first weeks as a resident were grueling, but she met every challenge with quiet determination. Skeptical colleagues soon recognized her talent and compassion. Aya's presence brought comfort to patients and staff alike. She had come full circle, stronger than ever. One evening, Aya paused at a patient chart, Tanaka. The name sent a jolt through her. Memories and whispers from her foster mother resurfaced. She entered the room to find Mr. Tanaka, frail and vulnerable. His eyes met hers. "You look familiar," he rasped. Aya steadied herself. "I'm Dr. Fujimoto. I'll be taking care of you." His gaze lingered, searching for something unspoken. The air was thick with the weight of their shared, hidden history. The days blurred. Tests, consultations, and a growing sense of unease. Mr. Tanaka's remarks hinted at secrets Aya couldn't ignore. One evening, a nurse rushed in. "Dr. Fujimoto, urgent call." The voice on the line trembled. "I worked at St. Grace Hospital. I did something terrible. I swapped 2 babies." The confession shattered Aya's world. The past, once a whisper, now roared into her present. Aya stood frozen, the truth crashing over her. The secret that shaped her life was finally revealed. Nothing would ever be the same. The dial tone droned in Aya's ear, a stark counterpoint to the frantic beating of her heart. Mika, the nurse, her voice raspy with age and illness, had confessed from her hospice bed. A confession that ripped through the fabric of Aya's life, unraveling years of carefully constructed identity. She saw flashes, her foster mother's evasive answers, the yearning in Mr. Tanaka's eyes, the echoes of another life, always present, always just out of reach. She stumbled back against the wall, the sterile white of the hospital corridor blurring. The weight of the revelation pressed down on her, stealing her breath, her voice. The carefully ordered world she had built, brick by intellectual brick, threatened to crumble around her. Her own reflection in the polished metal of a nearby equipment cart mocked her. The face that stared back was a stranger's. Each laboured breath was a battle against the rising tide of confusion, anger, betrayal. How could someone do this? How could someone play God with the lives of 2 innocent children? And what did this mean for her? Was she Aya, the girl raised in poverty, fueled by dreams and determination? Or was she someone else entirely, the missing daughter of the Tanaka clan? Her birthright stolen, her life a lie. She didn't know anymore. The world spun, the familiar hospital sounds fading to a dull roar. Driven by a force she couldn't quite name, Aya found herself standing outside the hospital's genetics lab. The clatter of medical equipment, the murmur of voices, the usual symphony of activity grated on her raw nerves. She clutched the file in her hand, a file containing a sample of Mr. Tanaka's blood and her own, drawn just moments ago. A simple test, a confirmation of the truth that had already burrowed its way into her soul. Dr. Sato, the head geneticist, a kind woman with eyes that held the wisdom of 1,000 diagnoses, met her gaze with a mixture of professional curiosity and something akin to pity. "The results, Dr. Fujimoto," she said, her voice gentle, "are conclusive. The probability of a parent-child relationship between you and Mr. Tanaka is 99.9%. The words, stark and irrefutable, hit Aya with the force of a physical blow. The file slipped from her grasp, fluttering to the floor like a fallen bird. She sank into a nearby chair, the sterile coolness of the plastic a stark contrast to the inferno raging within her. So it was true. All those years, those fleeting encounters, those whispers of a different life, it had all been real. She was Kazuo Tanaka's daughter, the missing piece of a puzzle she never knew existed. Aya walked back to Mr. Tanaka's room, the DNA report heavy in her pocket. Each step was a battle against the urge to run from the truth. She paused at the doorway, her hand trembling on the handle. Inside, Mr. Tanaka lay in bed, his gaze distant. He turned as she entered, meeting her eyes with silent questions. "How could you?" she whispered, voice trembling. "Don't pretend you don't know." She flung the DNA report onto his bed. "It's all there, the truth." Silence filled the room, the weight of years pressing down on them both. The silence in the room was deafening. It pulsed with the unspoken, a storm brewing in the space between Aya and the man in the hospital bed, the man who was her father. He held the DNA report, his hand trembling as he reread the stark lines, the irrefutable evidence of his past actions, of his sin. His face, already pale from illness, seemed to drain of all colour, leaving behind the ashen mask of a man facing a reckoning. "Aya," he began, his voice a choked whisper, but she stopped him with a shake of her head. The sight of his frailty, his obvious remorse, did little to quell the storm of emotions raging within her. Years of unanswered questions, of unspoken longings, of a life built on a lie, rose up, demanding to be heard. "I know why you did it," she said, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. "You wanted a son, an heir, someone to carry on your precious legacy." The words, sharp-edged and laced with bitterness, hung in the air between them. He winced, as if she had struck him, his gaze falling to the sterile white sheets. "Yes," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I was a fool, blinded by ambition, by my own selfish desires." He looked up at her, his eyes filled with a pain that seemed to claw its way out from the depths of his soul. "I traded a daughter I never knew for a legacy that means nothing without her." Aya stared at him, her heart a lead weight in her chest. His confession, offered without excuse or justification, echoed the whispers of her own pain. The urge to lash out, to inflict a fraction of the hurt she carried, was almost overwhelming, but as she looked at him, his frail body dwarfed by the hospital bed, she saw not a monster but a broken man, his spirit as fragile as his aging body. He reached out a hand, his fingers trembling, a plea for a connection he had no right to expect. "Aya," he whispered, his voice thick with unshed tears. "Can you ever forgive me? Can you forgive a father who failed to protect you, who failed to even know you?" She stood there for a long moment, the silence stretching between them like a chasm. The air crackled with unspoken emotions, the weight of their shared history, the weight of a truth too long buried. And then, slowly, she moved towards him. She didn't take his hand, not yet. Instead, she pulled up a chair, her movements deliberate, her gaze never leaving his. "Forgiveness," she said, her voice softer now, the anger receding like a tide, leaving behind a residue of sadness, "is a journey, not a destination. It's a choice we make, not just for others, but for ourselves." She looked at him, her eyes reflecting a lifetime of resilience, of hard-won wisdom. "I may not understand your choices, but I can see the regret in your heart. And that," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "is a start." The hospital room, once tense with unspoken truths, now felt lighter. The beeping of medical equipment faded as a fragile understanding grew between Aya and the father she'd never known. Forgiveness, Aya realized, was a journey. In that moment, her anger softened. Mr. Tanaka drifted into sleep, the DNA report beside him. a reminder of the past and a catalyst for healing. As Aya adjusted his blanket, their hands touched. For a moment she felt a connection, a sense of belonging. Blood didn't define family, love did. As she left, morning light filled the corridor. Aya carried with her a newfound peace and the strength of a family forged by love.